Last video I showed the best comp, but it only scored 39 mil. I'm currently at 46 mil, and rank 1, who I've been working together with, has hit 55 mil already, almost 56. I'll be explaining the two improvements we use to push for higher scores. These are both pretty annoying for different reasons, so unless you're aiming for top 100, I wouldn't bother trying to use them. Let's start with the more impactful one. In this current Hall of Trials, when you clear each exhaustion phase, at the end of the phase, Yufine will gain a stack that increases her damage taken. During a normal run, you'd start with 0 stacks. At the end of the first phase, you'd gain 1 stack, and then at the end of the second phase, you'd gain a second stack, and that would be it. However, it turns out that if you land a dual attack right as the phase ends, you can actually gain an additional stack. At the end of phase 2 here, I have 3 stacks of the increased damage taken instead of the usual 2 due to Alot's dual attacking. This does actually increase your damage. Each stack of the increased damage taken is 30% additive with each other. So going from 2 stacks to 3 would be an 18.75% damage increase, and going from 3 to 4 would be a further 15.79% damage increase. Each unit has a 3% chance to duel, so combined, it should be 9% for any unit to dual attack off of F1, assuming that dual attack chances on each unit are additive, giving us a 0.81% chance to land 2 dual attacks. This needs to be specifically during the last turn of the exhaustion phase, because if you dual attack anywhere else in the phase, then you would lose out on a turn of damage. So the chance of having a successful run is actually way lower than 80 or 0.81%. There is a pretty unethical way of shifting our odds though. Lady Katie doesn't really need any sets for this setup, she just needs a ton of bulk and maybe a bit of speed for speed tuning. So if you give her some Unity sets, you can increase the odds of a successful run having 2 dual attacks in the right spots. There's 3 S1s which can make or break your run. The one to bring you into exhaustion phase, the one in the middle, and the one at the end. For the one in the beginning, since Light Hades is the one to bring us into exhaustion phase and also the one holding the Unity sets, it's not going to affect the chance for you to dual attack on this turn. It's still just a 9% chance regardless, and a 91% chance to not dual attack, which is what we're aiming for. For the other two, your chance to duel is going to increase based on how many Unity sets you have. It'll be 9%, plus 8 times however many Unity sets you have. For the end one, we want to duel, so it's just a chance to duel. And we want to not duel on the middle one, so it's 1 minus the chance to duel. Another thing to keep in mind is that the first and second S1s happen 3 times in a run, since we have 3 break phases. But the third one only matters twice, because the end of the third break phase is also the end of the run itself, so we don't care if somebody duels there. With that in mind, here are the chances for you to get the right timings on your dual attacks with 0, 1, 2, and 3 Unity sets. So we can see that going from 0 to 1 is almost 3 times the chance for you to get the right timings, and going from 0 to 3 is almost 6 times. This is pretty valuable if you're trying to push top 3 in this Hall of Trials, but if you're not, then it's probably not worth your time, especially if you're not even aiming for top 100. The second tech, which we only started trying out yesterday, is by swapping out Cruel Mischief for P.O.S. from the Abyssal collab. We have no idea why this does more damage, since the math isn't really lining up, it just does more damage. We can compare the damage for Cruel Mischief and a 10-stack P.O.S. here. 1228529 divided by 1155575 gives us 1.063, so it's a 6.3% damage increase at max stacks. P.O.S. does take time to ramp up. Typically you go into the first exhaustion phase with 4 stacks, but by the end of the first exhaustion phase, you should be at max stacks at P.O.S. For my runs at the end of the first exhaustion phase, I usually end with a little bit more damage, almost the same as with Cruel Mischief. But most of our damage is backloaded, with 75 to 80% of it coming after the first exhaustion phase, so there's going to be a pretty significant damage increase from this. The issues are that, one, it's from the Abyssal collab, which hasn't rerun in 2 years, and also this artifact is completely useless outside of this. This is the first time it's been usable, rather, so it's a pretty hefty artifact EXP cost. It might be usable in future Hall of Trials, but there's no guarantee of that. Both of these things let us boost our damage by a pretty significant amount. Landing 1 dual attack at the end of the first exhaustion phase without going for a second one is probably still going to be like a 6 to 7 million damage increase, and landing a second dual attack is probably going to be a 5 to 6 million damage increase. While P.O.S. should give you about a 1 to 2 million damage increase depending on whether or not you're also going for the dual attacks. Like I said earlier, these things aren't really mandatory even if you're going for top 100. Unless everybody starts doing them, then it might get a little bit annoying, but if you're just trying to shoot for top 5%, definitely not needed. Top 100 is a maybe, and if you're trying to go for top 3, then you definitely need to be doing these things. I can confirm that rank 1 is using both P.O.S. and double dual attacks. Rank 2 is likely using double dual attacks, potentially using P.O.S, very likely. Rank 3 is probably doing double dual attacks without using a P.O.S. So if you're trying to push for top 3, good luck.